You have been praying, you have been crying, you have been asking God to fix your marriage. And yet, nothing seems to change. The distance is still there. The tension is still there. The silence, the coldness, the arguments that repeat like a broken record. So you pray harder, you fast longer, you speak louder. But what if the problem is not that God is not listening? What if the problem is that you are asking Him to fix something, while ignoring the one thing He is waiting for you to fix first? This is going to be uncomfortable. But you need to hear it. Because your marriage may not change, until you do. You want peace in your home. But you carry anger in your heart. You want your spouse to understand you. But you refuse to truly listen. You want love to return. But you have allowed bitterness to take root. And then you go to God and say, "Fix my marriage." God hears you, but He also sees what you are avoiding. Scripture says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." Psalm 51 verse 10. Not fix my spouse, not change their behavior, not make them love me better. Create in me a clean heart. That is where this begins. You cannot pray for healing in your marriage while refusing healing in your own heart. You cannot ask God to restore connection while you protect your pride like a treasure. You cannot expect intimacy while you hold on to offense. This is not about blame. This is about responsibility. Because transformation in your marriage often starts with one person choosing to be different. And that person can be you. You have been waiting for your spouse to apologize, to change, to notice, to care. But what if God is waiting for you to go first? What if the miracle begins when you release what you have been holding on to? The resentment, the silent scorekeeping, the rehearsed arguments in your mind. You know what I am talking about. You replay what they did. You build your case. You justify your distance. And then you kneel down and ask God for closeness. It does not work that way. Because God is not just interested in fixing your situation. He is interested in transforming your character. Jesus said, "First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye." Matthew 7 verse 5. That is not easy. Because it forces you to look inward. To admit that maybe, just maybe, you are contributing to the problem more than you want to admit. Not entirely, but enough to matter, enough to change. And here is the truth most people avoid. You cannot control your spouse. But you can control your response. You cannot force them to love you differently. But you can choose to love differently. You cannot guarantee they will change. But you can guarantee that you will not remain the same. And that is where power lives. Because when you change, the atmosphere changes. When you soften, tension begins to shift. When you choose patience instead of reaction, something breaks. Even if it is just inside you. And that matters more than you think. Because a hardened heart cannot build a healthy marriage. A defensive spirit cannot create peace. A prideful posture cannot invite intimacy. So before you pray again about your marriage, ask yourself this: what am I refusing to surrender? Is it your pride? You want to be right. You want to win the argument. You want validation more than resolution. But winning in marriage often looks like losing your ego. It looks like saying, "I was wrong." It looks like choosing humility over being correct. Scripture says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. James 4 verse 6. If grace is what your marriage needs, then humility is what you must choose. Maybe it is unforgiveness. You were hurt, deeply hurt, and you have every reason to feel what you feel. But holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting your marriage to heal. It slowly destroys everything: your peace, your joy, your ability to love freely. Forgiveness does not mean what they did was okay. It means you refuse to let it control your heart anymore. It means you trust God with justice. And you choose freedom. Maybe it is your attitude, the tone in your voice, the constant criticism, the way you speak when you are frustrated. Words matter, more than you realize. They can build, or they can break. They can heal, or they can wound. And sometimes, the problem is not what you are saying. It is how you are saying it. Scripture reminds you, "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying." Ephesians 4 verse 29. Are your words building your marriage, or slowly tearing it down? Maybe it is your expectations. Unspoken, unrealistic, heavy. You expect your spouse to read your mind, to meet every emotional need, to never fail. And when they do, disappointment turns into distance. But no human being can carry that weight. Only God can. When you place expectations on your spouse that belong to God, you set your marriage up for frustration. And then you pray for relief, without adjusting what created the pressure. This is the hard truth. Prayer is powerful, but prayer without obedience is empty. You cannot ask God to bless what you refuse to align. You cannot pray for peace while sowing conflict. You cannot pray for love while nurturing resentment. God is not ignoring your prayers. He is inviting your participation. He is saying, meet me here. Let me change you first. Because when you change, you become a different partner. A more patient partner. A more understanding partner. A more loving partner. And that can spark change on the other side. Not always instantly. Not always dramatically. But consistently. Quietly. Powerfully. And even if your spouse does not change right away, you still win. Because you gain peace. You gain clarity. You grow closer to God. You become stronger. Healthier. More grounded. And that alone is worth everything. But there is something else you need to hear. Fixing yourself is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aware. It is about noticing your patterns, your triggers, your reactions, and bringing them before God with honesty. Not pretending, not performing, just real. Because God works with real. He heals what you expose. He transforms what you surrender. But He will not force what you resist. So stop praying the same prayer, without changing the same habits. Stop asking for a miracle, while ignoring the mirror. Look at yourself, not with condemnation, but with courage, and ask God to show you what needs to change. Then listen, because He will show you. In quiet moments, in conviction, in gentle nudges, in uncomfortable realizations. Do not run from that. That is where healing begins. And when you go back to prayer, pray differently. Not just fix my marriage, but fix me, shape me, teach me how to love like you love. Teach me how to respond with grace. Teach me how to forgive. Teach me how to build instead of break. Because that prayer changes everything. That prayer invites transformation. That prayer aligns your heart with God's will. And when your heart aligns, your actions follow. And when your actions change, your marriage has room to breathe again. You may not see it immediately. But something will shift. Inside you first, and then, around you. So do not stop praying. Just stop praying the wrong way. Stop praying without reflection. Stop praying without responsibility. Stop praying while avoiding the work God has placed in your hands. Because your marriage is not just something God fixes for you. It is something He builds through you. With you. In you. And that process begins when you stop pointing outward, and start looking inward. You have more power than you think. Not to control your spouse, but to transform your environment. Through your choices. Through your words. Through your posture. And through your willingness to change. So before your next prayer, pause. Be honest. Be brave. And ask yourself, what is God asking me to fix first? Then fix that, and watch what happens next.